Hey everyone, we have Greg Helbeck here. Super excited to have Greg here. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Greg is from Velocity House Buyers based out in San Diego. And Greg, just an honor to have you here, man. And I'm really excited to chat.
Dude, it's my honor. I'm just turning the fan off in the bedroom slash office so you don't hear like a
Yeah,
weird
thanks.
fan.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
I guess I want to I could see you and you're really young. Congratulations on being in real estate and young. That means you're kind of ahead of the game, right? How did you get into real estate?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know how you got started, what you're doing right now, where you want to be. Really, really would love to know a little bit more of of your journey in this industry.
Yeah, for sure. So I got started when I was 20. I was a college kid, and
You're so ahead of the game.
there's kids that are younger than me who are making more money than me. It's crazy. Like there's people like, in their 20s, 21 making,
Right.
multiple seven figures. It's pretty wild. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's just how the times have changed, right? So I got started 20 years old in college, didn't know what to do, was really motivated to make it happen. And I actually went to a seminar. It was like how to make money in real estate with no money down, kind of bullshit. It actually turned out to not be bullshit though, because it works. But
There you go.
started doing marketing and started just failing and failing and failing and failing and being persistent and getting leads and blowing leads and going on appointments and getting no and having just, kind of running around like with my hair on fire. Took 9 months.
I'm going to pause you because I want to kind of like break some of this stuff down. First of all, what were you in college for?
I got a business degree, just got a business admin degree. Nothing crazy.
Is it at all useful?
The accounting I know pretty well. The finance stuff, I mean, I learned some decent stuff there. It just taught me to like finish what you start, right?
Okay.
Like, 'cause it was like I could have dropped out. I mean, anyone can drop out, and I don't know if that habit is really good.
Okay.
So I was like, my parents, I cut a deal with them. I said, listen, if I stay local and don't go away to some fancy college, I don't want to pay for it, because they're not poor, but they're not rich.
Right.
And I just didn't want to get in debt. I don't like I didn't think student loan debt made a lot of sense.
I was just wondering if you got a useless college degree like so many people do.
I think it was useless in the fact that no, I don't use it today. Like I don't use it for anything, but it taught me how to finish.
You finished it.
Yeah. And I didn't get any debt for it. It was cheap. It wasn't expensive, obviously.
Right.
And sorry, just to segue a little bit off that, what were you planning to do right after school before you found real estate?
I was planning to get rich one way or the other. So
I like that. That's a good answer.
It wasn't, I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. So I didn't really have any doubt about that. I actually had good timing to where, 2015, the market wasn't as crazy as it was now. Obviously it's still, you can make money, but I had 2 years to figure out my shit in real estate. I had a market that wasn't as crazy. So there was a lot of opportunity. There still is. I'm not saying there's no opportunity now, but it was a lot different back then. It sounds bad, and it was like 5 years ago, but it was. So I really got to spin my wheels and work without making any money for, year and a half. By the time I got out of college, I was making, much more than my professors. And I'm not saying that, but just that was the reality of it. I had a goal to make more money than my professors. And I set that goal and I over time achieved that goal. So by the time I got out of college, I was full time, like was ready to roll, like doing 3, 4, 5 houses a month. Yeah.
So let me ask you. So you get out of school, you always had this vision that you wanted to be wealthy. And you found the seminar. If I may ask, what was the strategy that the seminar was teaching? Was it a lot of money? Because I can tell you, man, when I, back in the day when I was researching and everything, I've heard of these seminars and I was too afraid to take the plunge, but you are not the first. And I kind of wish I did. I'm not saying that people need to do seminars or they're all good. Don't get me wrong. But I've heard from a number of people that have done them and have actually said that they provided a lot of value. So I'm actually curious, what the seminar, the strategy that the seminar you attended, what were they trying to teach? I'm probably going to guess wholesaling if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Was it expensive? And
it wasn't, it was one of those seminars where like you can spend, it was free, and then it was $2,000, and then it was whatever, insert your dollar amount, really.
You got a taste of it, and that's kind of like you took off from there.
I paid the 2,000. So I spent the 2,000.
Okay.
And then I had enough information to where I probably would have went to the higher one, but I didn't know anything. I was an ignorant 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had enough information there. And now I know, like, information is very valuable. And I pay a lot of money for coaches, consultants, courses now. But
Yeah.
like, you got to take action and you got to get results, right? Period.
Right.
Buy your way to fucking wealth.
Yep.
But so what ended up happening was I took all that information. I had
And-
enough to run on.
And was it wholesaling? Was I correct in that, or was it different?
Yeah, they were talking about wholesaling mostly.
Okay.
Like, but they were just generally, they were talking about it in my area. Like I still do most of my business back in the East Coast. So they weren't talking about wholesaling in New York. They were just talking about wholesaling. They happened to be like doing the seminar in New York. So I realized quickly that a lot of the stuff they were talking about was not accurate for the New York area.
Right.
So I was running into trouble with attorneys and sellers, and I just didn't know what I didn't know. I was super young, no capital. Not a lot of people really, they all thought I was crazy. They still do think I'm crazy.
That's
But
you got to be a little crazy to be.
you got to be a little
at least
crazy.
in this industry. So
You got to be a little crazy. So
kudos to you.
I just started, going out and getting leads, and took 9 months. I got a house, made a little bit of money. And then I started aligning with people in my market who actually were doing more business than me. And I started basically like pocket wholesaling them deals and learning how the business worked.
So that the first deal you did, that was a wholesale?
Yeah, it was a wholesale deal in Poughkeepsie.
Okay.
Yep.
Poughkeepsie.
Can you tell me, can we actually go even further back? Because you first started, you said you failed, you'd start getting a deal and then that would fall through. Tell me about, like, kind of in general terms, why you were failing at first, why you would get a deal, but it would fall through. What was the holdup?
Well, number one, I didn't know what a deal was because I didn't have any experience. So now I have new investors come to me with deals, and we partner, and it's like they're going to learn more just by working with somebody, whether it's me or another person who has experience. They're going to cut their learning curve by, in half probably.
Right.
So I didn't know what a deal was. I had no idea how the process worked. No idea. Like I thought you just sign a contract and, off you go. I didn't know that attorneys were that heavily involved. And I didn't really have a lot of people to sell a property to. I had no leverage in a negotiation. Like
Sure.
In a negotiation, whoever has the needs it the least always wins. I needed it the most. I had no money and I had no idea on what I was doing. So I was desperate to sell, desperate to buy. So that's why it was, and I didn't really have a lot of knowledge about advertising and lead gen and conversion and qualifying. And I didn't know any of that. I just was like going out there, swinging the bat, putting up bandit signs at 10 at night, getting chased around. So it just took time, man. It was hard. And I knew every week I was putting bandit signs out, like every weekend. And what ended up happening was like, the harder it got, the more persistent I became. And sometimes I still am very persistent by nature, but like, sometimes I wish I still had some of that like beginning fire. Like, I still have it, but it's just a different version of it now.
Yeah.
And I was like so determined to do whatever it takes to win. And so anyway, over time, I started to do deals consistently with these local investors. And then
Oh,
after a while, I realized that New York was really a pain in the ass with the attorneys. And I still didn't have
not too much, just a little. I say the very sarcastic.
Yeah. I mean, I make it work now. So I'll tell you what ended up happening. So what ended up happening was I made some decent money in New York. Nothing that's going to put you on a yacht, but like enough money to where, like, okay, this is like proven, like this works. But I still kept running into this problem where the sales cycle was so long, because by the time you got a deal and got the attorney and did all this bullshit, it's like to even get a wholesale deal done was like 2.5 months, 3 months. And I'm like, this is killing me.
Really?
Yeah, it takes time. I have wholesale deals right now. We've been in contract on for over a year. I mean, it's
That's
crazy.
in New York or in San Diego?
In New York. Yeah, in New York.
Turnaround time in New York can take forever.
Wow.
Oh, it's insane. I have one. We got a contract in a basic wholesale deal with some permit issues in December or November, and we still haven't closed, and it's fucking March. So it just takes time. So anyway, I was running into that. I was running into these cash flow problems. And I said, this has got to be easier in another area. Like, there's no way this is like this. There's something going on. It's either me or it's the market, or maybe it's a little bit of both.
Sure.
So I said, I'm going to try this in Texas and just generate leads down there and see if it's even easier. If it's easier to do it in Texas.
You did that from New York?
From New York. I was living in New York. I was living in New York at the time. I was living there.
Okay.
And did you have any network, any foundation in Texas?
I did. I knew people in Texas. I'm in a group that's based in Texas. And I think the first time I went there, I met somebody who was doing business in the Dallas area. And I just shook his hand, said hello. And I said, hey, let's connect if you ever want to do whatever, just introduction.
Sure.
Called him a week later. I got it started. So I was doing leads, just generating leads. I wasn't doing anything crazy. I was just doing everything virtually, getting leads, getting sellers.
Out of curiosity, what were your lead generation methods?
Cold call. It was cold calling. Before cold calling got crazy. Still works today, but it's like no one really doing this strategy of cold calling like vacant houses. Started doing that, and I immediately, like literally after like 3.5 weeks, started getting like deals right away. So I remember calling Jason. I said, hey, I have this house. The seller is like illiterate. She can't sign a computer. She can't sign DocuSign. And you need to lock this up. This is a smoking deal. And we locked it up. We made money. And then I called them like literally 3 days later, we made more money. And then we started rolling like 3, 4, sometimes 5 properties a month. We're making 20 to 30, sometimes $40,000 per deal. I was splitting that, but I was never really doing, I was basically just
you were making calls.
I was making calls, but I was getting a deal on the phone. And then once the thing was in contract, I didn't do anything, like nothing really, unless there was a title issue.
And these were all wholesales.
They were wholesales to start. And then I started saving up enough money to where we actually started paying cash for these properties, putting them on the MLS and making more money. So like wholesale, you know what I mean? Like before wholetailing was popular, we were doing wholetailing. And then we started doing rehabs there, like light rehabs, nothing crazy.
And for the folks that don't know what wholetailing is, to my understanding, it's basically you buy a property, you put some very light rehab, and you sell it. So it's a flipping light, if that is.
Yeah, if you
make it more palatable to.
Yeah, you can do it without. Yeah, you can even do it where you don't even you can sell it completely as it. It's basically just buying a property, putting up to 10, 15 grand in it to make it functional, and then putting it back on the market. A wholesale property is really going to be a house that doesn't need a lot of work usually. It's got to be able to get financing. If it can't get financing, you can't wholesale it. You can wholesale it, but you are going to have to only sell it to a cash buyer on the MLS.
So you started out trying to wholesale in New York, realized that, the market here, not that the market, but that it's a shitty place to do business for a lot of people. Just because
for newbies, it's hard. It's hard for newbies.
Fair. You decided that you were going to start doing business in Texas. You started doing business. You started killing it. And then where'd you go from there?
Back to New York to do business.
Back to New York to do business. So was that always your plan, that you wanted to do enough business in another state, make enough capital to have in your reserves to then come back to New York and do business here?
It's funny how it all worked out. So what ended up, I'll give you like this. You guys are good at this, by the way. I know it's your first interview, but you're really like, you're like squeezing me like an orange, getting all the
thank you. I appreciate
it. Yeah, I appreciate it. So what ended up happening was the market in Texas was very undersaturated with cold calling and texting. Like if you guys heard the book, Blue Ocean Strategy.
I've heard of it. Yes. I've not read it.
It was a blue ocean. Sure. Every 6 leads, we were making 20, 30 grand. It was fucking crazy. And I knew this wasn't going to last. I knew I was going to run out. Like eventually there's only so many of these distressed properties in Texas that were vacant that had tax to like every fucking lead was basically like in my database after like a year. I remember I would pull a new record set and be like, oh shit, I already know this. This is already in the system. So I started to realize like over time, this is going to dry up here. I'm going to have to either go into another area and do this or do something different in Texas. And like what was working so well. And I literally had I was spending like $600 a month in software, making, a lot of money, 50-50. So I was splitting these deals. So I just want to be like, when I say 30, 40 a deal, that means splitting that with a partner, right? So just a lot of people say these crazy fucking numbers, but they're not netting that. Like I was splitting that, wasn't really doing a lot of work, to be honest with you. Wasn't going anywhere. I was doing this I moved to California at this time. I'm living in San Diego now because I was like, I don't need to actually go to these houses. So like my location is irrelevant to where I'm living. Anyway, what ended up happening, that started to see the writing on the wall in Texas. That was going to get a little more difficult. All these softwares started coming out, stacking list softwares and calling and all this, just got fucking nuts. So I'm like, okay, this is not good because this is going to dry up eventually. And then this money pot's going to eventually move somewhere else. I called up a friend of mine who actually started in the business with me. And I said, hey, I think I know how to do direct mail now because I used to do direct mail like really shitty and I had no idea how to run campaigns. I said, hey, I think I know how to run this direct mail thing now. Why don't we split this ad spend and you live in New York, I'm in California. I'll handle all the leads. I'll do all this stuff. and we'll split the deals, and we'll make it happen. So we started doing that. So I started doing mailings in New York, because at this time I had the money and the experience and the systems down there to where like I could actually operate. So we started doing a decent amount of direct mail, like nothing crazy, but like enough to get results. And we started wholesaling these deals in New York now, virtually.
What part of New York?
So like the Westchester County, Rockland County, Orange County, Dutchess County, like that Hudson Valley, lower Hudson Valley is
Okay.
that's right.
And is that there any particular reason why you picked those regions within New York?
Well, he lives there. I'm from there. I go back there like once a month.
So invest in what you know. I'm sorry.
I know. Yeah, I know the area. I know the area.
I'm sorry. What was your last point that you wanted to make?
I knew the area.
You knew the area.
Yeah, I knew the area.
Kind of Buffett-esque. Invest in what you know. Cool. So
I lost money doing the opposite. So we started doing that. That started working pretty well, and then we started doing rehabs. And then I wasn't doing anything because I say I'm not doing anything. I'm doing all the sales and marketing, but I'm not like dealing with the bullshit. I'm not like going to job sites. I hate doing that. And we weren't like 50-50 partners. We're just doing these direct mail campaigns like together, like, you know what I mean? So like, we're just partnering on the leads that we got from the mail, but we could do whatever the hell we wanted if it wasn't from the mail campaign. And this is
what did you do with the homes that that came in through those leads? If
we would wholesale them, or we would buy them and then just flip them. We would do it like rehab or wholesale. Yeah.
So walk me through from the first letter sent to the first deal or potential deal that you saw. What was the lead time between?
It's a good question. I remember this too. This is funny.
And I asked this because
no. I know the address. It's on. I think it was. Let me see if
I hope that we don't get blocked because we doxed.
Don't give the full address. Just maybe the street name.
Oh, dude, this was years ago, bro. This was years ago. I think it was this. Let me just double check.
But my understanding through our mutual friend Michael, my understanding is it takes forever between starting your marketing spend in New York and actually starting to get deals.
Yeah. All right. So,
but is Michael doing these deals in the boroughs, or is he like, what's that?
Wait, this friend that you speak of, is that your friend Michael or?
No, my other friend.
Your other friend, right? So it's another mutual friend. But yeah, so the lead time between your first piece of mail sent to the first potential lead, that was there a long window between that?
About 3 months, 3.5 months.
Wow, that's actually pretty quick. Because
that's lucky. Yeah. So it was on Penny Lane in Newburgh. I mean, I've done it like up to this point, I've done like 55 houses. So like I'm like a veteran at that point,
How old are you at this point? This deal that we're talking about right now.
The 7 Penny Lane seller.
Yeah.
That was like deal number 50 or 55. I mean, because up to this point, like for a year and a half, like 3 to 4 properties a month in Dallas, making a lot of profit, understanding how to market, like learning a lot, like daily, right? Understanding.
And you're in your early 20s at this point, right?
Yeah, I was 20.
How old are you at that deal 55?
I was like 23. Yeah, I was still young. I was like 20. I had to be 23 or 24. I think I was probably 23 because I'm 26 now. I'm going to be 27 in 2 months.
You're a fucking baby, man. You're a fucking baby. But I say that in the most.
Yes, I was 23. Yeah.
I say that in the most endearing way.
Thank you. I know. I can tell.
No, that's awesome.
23. So it took about 3 months to do the one deal. But then from there, this is the thing, like with marketing that people get fucked up with. It might take a while to get the first one, but while you're still getting that first one from a mailing, you got like 3 or 4 others in the pipe. So then like by the time one closed, you got 2 and 3 already locked up, right? And then you got that, and then you're going to take that money. So it's snowballs. So like, that took 3 months, but number one, I'm still making money in Texas as this is going on. Like I didn't stop doing, I just knew eventually the Texas thing was going to eventually not work.
You're still doing your cold calls in Texas.
Yes, exactly. So I'm not like depending on this. And it was like, I can do the mail, I can spend the money. I know how that works. Let's split this shit. But we also were not like exclusively partners. We still do deals to this day together if we want to, but we weren't like tied to each other. So like I was still doing Texas deals. I was doing the mailing with him just because I knew that was like obviously easy to execute because I didn't have to worry about being there. He can do all the boots on the ground bullshit. And then we'll split the money and we'll, get lenders to fund the deals. And we can talk about that later. But then I ran into a house. Actually, this deal actually changed my life. It just changed what I actually like believe was possible, especially at my age. I ran into a house in Rockland County and it was a vacant property. I cold called this shit on my own. I remember sitting in California in my apartment, like calling this guy.
How did you find it?
What?
How did you find it?
It was a vacant house on a REWW software, which is like, you could just pull like lists of vacant properties and just gives you like a spreadsheet of all these houses that are, I mean, half of them aren't vacant, but some of them are. Sure. And I looked on Google and it was like, the thing was definitely vacant. It was in an area that I know pretty well. My grandparents lived down the road and the guy wasn't motivated on paper. Well, he wasn't motivated because he wasn't like an idiot. He didn't sound desperate, but he like wanted to get rid of this property. So I remember meeting him at the house. I flew back I think I went back just for fun and I ended up meeting this guy. And he told me his price he wanted to get for the house. And I almost fell out of my chair. He said he wanted 100. He said originally he said 145. ARV was 445, probably 500 now.
Whoa.
And I said, I didn't like, because I knew there was something going on. I'm like, there's no fucking way.
Yeah,
like,
what's wrong with it?
Yeah, like, where's the dead bodies in the basement? Like, it doesn't make sense. And then he like wouldn't commit to that number. So then I remember like at this point,
did he actually let you see the property? Did you go inside?
Yeah, I was there. Oh yeah. I went to the house.
So was
there. No, it was just a fixer. It needed like a rehab, but it wasn't. There was a little bit of mold, but it was like nothing.
So
anyway,
he just wanted to get rid of it.
It was his dad's house. He didn't give a fuck. He just didn't care. He lived in Philly or the Jersey, like near Philly in New Jersey. Anyway, long story short, he sold me this house for 185 and I made like $101,000 doing like it was like a rehab, but it wasn't a huge rehab. And I netted that much money and I was like, holy shit, this came from a cold call I made. And at the time I did save some money up. So I had the ability to close with hard money and I had to bring a gap to the table and make the payments. Like I had some cash now because from all those other deals. So like I made a 6-figure deal and I'm like, holy shit, I just made more money on one fucking house than I made in my entire life, pretty much up to that point. Well, no, not at that, but like you get the point. Like that was more money than most people make in 2 years, right?
Right.
So I was like, holy shit. And then from there, I started just doing like more deals that had bigger margins where I was just closing on them, either doing a double close, which means sell to a buyer right away, or I was cleaning them out, listing them, doing rehabs. And then I started saving some serious money up. And then I started buying rental properties. And now like present day, we buy anywhere from 5 to 9 houses a month. I have a team. I have 2 people who work directly for me full time. And we're buying rental properties. We're doing fix and flips. We're doing wholetailing. We're doing wholesaling.
You're doing the whole gambit of
the whole gambit in a reason. Like it's easy to say that and it sounds cool, but it's really fucking chaos, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it's
and I'm just trying every day to like make sure like we're holding it in and holding it down. It's a lot of work, but yeah, we have multiple ways we can make money. Rental properties are awesome. They're challenging.
So basically you started wholesaling. Now you've made some money. You're still wholesaling. Now you're buying rental properties because you probably realized, okay, do I really want to be cold calling for the rest of my life and sending out mailers? Maybe not. So you're like, wait, I can actually maybe just get a paycheck for owning these properties. Is that kind of your thought process?
Yeah. Is there a substantial part of your portfolio that is in cash flow producing assets?
Now it's starting to turn out that way, but it wasn't before. I started buying rentals in 2020 when the pandemic happened.
How many doors do you own, or how many apartment complexes, or is it just houses? Or what's your goal?
I had 4. So I had 6 units, which isn't this. I don't have like hundreds of units. I just started buying it. So I had 6 units sold off of a commercial. It was 4 of those units were a commercial building that was a shit show. I lost money on. We can talk about that later. So sold those off, picked up another one that I'm flipping just because it's not a great rental. So right now I technically have 3, but then I'm closing on 2 more in the next 2.5 weeks. So I'll have I have 3 now. I will have 5, but then I'm going to sell 1. So I'll end up having 4, but these are all like really smoking hot rentals that I'm getting at a discount. Like I don't like buy rentals if they're just like, they have to be it's got to be a better deal to be a rental than it is a flip. Like, cause the New York, the taxes are so high and the purchase prices are high.
Where are the rentals? Are they in San Diego? Are you
They're in
renting
New York.
San Diego?
They're in New York.
It's all in New York.
They're
Are
all
you
in-
doing any deals in San Diego?
I do, but not rentals. No.
Okay.
So,
No.
so let me ask you this, because you know, you started out, you ramped up your business. One of the biggest problems, and it's something that you alluded to earlier, is funding. How were you able to overcome the hurdles of funding all these acquisitions?
So first thing is that I didn't close on a property.
Oh, we're getting a show here. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so-
In my room
For
is.
those who are just listening to this, Greg just took his shirt off for us.
Oh, yeah.
I was just
I
changing.
took my sweatshirt. It's so hot, dude. It's so hot. San Diego, it gets kind of hot even in the winter. But anyway, so I didn't close on a deal. I didn't like take title to a property until like, I'm just thinking like I have to like go back and think, probably 2018. So I started in 15. I didn't close on a house till 18 because I was just wholesaling, saving my money up.
Sure.
So by the time I started buying properties, I was either paying cash for them because they were in Texas and they were like $10.
Sure.
Not really, they were like 20,000.
Right.
But like to split that with someone 10 each is not a big deal when you
Right.
save
Right.
money, right? And then on the New York stuff, yeah, I just had enough money to start getting hard money loans because you have to bring about 10% plus closing costs. And you know, if you're buying a house for 200 grand, it's like 30,000 bucks.
Do the hard money lenders here in New York, do they care much about your track record, or they're just like, I don't give a shit, I'm just, you know.
No, I mean, they care about the deal. So
Sure.
to answer your question, I'll answer. So I saved a lot of money from wholesaling to then be able to close. So that's like the simple answer. To answer the hard money question, they will, if you have no experience whatsoever, like you just have never done a deal before, but you actually have a deal that makes sense in theory on paper, right? And they appraise it and all that shit, because they're going to make you jump through some hoops, especially on your first deal. They will fund it. They're probably going to make you bring 20% of the purchase price plus closing costs. So they're going to they're going to make sure the deal makes sense. They're going to make sure you have a lot of skin in the game, and they're going to charge you more money because they can, right? So
Right.
yeah, they will fund you if you have no experience, but you need to have some capital. And if you don't have capital, you got to partner with someone who's going to either bring that money, or I wouldn't advise, but you can get like a second position mortgage, or just do a note with someone, a high interest. But I would probably not do that. If you don't have liquidity and I'd rather partner with someone than get two mortgages on a property. Cause then if something goes wrong, you're fucked, right? You have really don't have any equity. The only equity is in the house, which you haven't recaptured yet. So, I would save up enough money, you know, and this is what I did. I saved enough money up to where like I could put money down on a deal and be able to afford the loan, right? Because you got to be able to afford it, because you're going to be writing interest checks until you sell the property or refinance. So you got to be able to like sustain that. So yeah, you gotta know what you're doing.
Right.
When you're closing on properties, it's totally different. Wholesaling is not real estate. Wholesaling is sales and marketing.
Sure.
Right.
It's not really real estate. Buying real estate and flipping it or renting it or wholesaling it is actual real estate. Like I always say, once you have to turn the fucking utilities on, you're in real estate, right? But until then, you're not in real estate. You're just shuffling paper.
So Greg, earlier you alluded to, and just now, that, okay, what is really real estate?
Uh-huh.
That $101,000 deal on Penny Lane, was that your
No, that
biggest
was
deal?
No. So that Penny Lane deal was a wholesale deal from direct mail. The deal that was 101 grand was a deal in Rockland County that I cold called. So I think that's what you, so I don't want to confuse it.
And was that your biggest deal, your most successful deal so far?
I believe from a profitability standpoint, yeah, that one still
Okay.
trumps it all.
And then earlier you alluded to one where you actually lost money. What happened there? How do we make sure that doesn't happen to us? You know, it's easy to be like, oh wait, I made money here, but how do you learn from people's mistakes so that hopefully you don't do it again, we don't make it happen. So
sure.
And after that, I also want to know about, because you've built this into a business, you've built a team, you're scaling. So tell us about that failure. Tell us how we can make sure that no one listening to this ever makes that type of mistake. And then, you know, if you could tell us about what you guys are doing now, how you've scaled, what are your plans for the future for World?
Sure. All right. So the bad deal. So obviously, like I said earlier, I was I decided to buy rental properties a couple of years ago, and you know, I don't have a ton of them right now, but I'm building, you know, I'm on track every month now. We're buying one new property. That's our goal for 2022. So we can buy one new rental a month. We'll have 12 by the end of the year. We hopefully get our tax bill down to 0 and build wealth long term, right? Everyone says that, and it's true. It's important. So I had a goal that I wanted to buy a commercial property, and this is where I fucked up. The first thing, it was my goal wasn't specific and measurable. It was I want to buy a commercial property. Like that was it. Like I didn't really have
No
a good
specific
criteria.
reason.
Yeah, it was just commercial property, and I
Did you
kind
have
of
a
wrote.
partner on that deal, or,
No,
or
just-
you?
Nope,
Okay.
just me.
So,
Nope.
because earlier you were saying, okay, I learned because I had all these partners, right? Like people
Yeah.
who knew what they were doing. Had before this property, had you ever partnered with someone who did these kind of deals on commercial properties?
Up until this deal, I have never done a deal with someone who has done a commercial deal, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Yes.
so you basically said, hey, I want to do a commercial deal. No real rhyme or reason.
No real rhyme or reason. It seemed cool. I understand how to market and get these off market deals, so I figured that wouldn't be the difficult part. So
Why did it seem cool?
just because the dollars are bigger, right? And like if I buy a rental, instead of having to make $200 a month, it can make $2,000 a month, and then it's the same prop. You know what I mean? It's like, and I'll still do that, right? That'll be in the future, but like I just did it the wrong way to start. And I honestly, I'm grateful for it because I learned a lot. So what ended up happening was I found an off-market property. I had a little criteria that I ended up writing down eventually, and it was like, okay, don't buy vacant buildings, don't buy like just kind of like loose, high and dry like stuff. And I found this lead, and the guy wasn't motivated, but he had a really good price, but it was vacant. It was totally, no one was in this property. It was totally unoccupied. He was keeping the utilities on and stuff. So like, you know, it wasn't
Can you
like,
actually tell me more about this? Because I have a vague interest in commercial properties only because I currently rent a commercial property.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like when I think about my landlord, I'm like, man, they are just making money. And part of it is because it's a medical dental building, right? And so dentists, doctors, they're always going to pay the rent if they're there. So why is this commercial property empty? Is it like often in the middle of nowhere, or is it like in a shopping center? And like, why isn't someone in there?
So it was basically in the middle of nowhere. The owner lived down the street, and he just was tired of dealing with it. So he didn't want to have tenants, and he probably had some bad tenants. So he just didn't want to fuck with it, and he wasn't like strapped for cash. So I cold called him, and he was like, yeah, I'd sell that. And it was vacant. And it was in it was in the middle of nowhere, but it was in a good area. Right? So it wasn't in like a strip mall or anything like that. It was like a mixed use. There was 3 apartments, 1 store, everything vacant. I walked the property, and I said, all right, seems like a deal. He was already asking a good price. And then I think I offered him 265 or something. I offered him a low number, and he took it right away. And I was like, usually when they take
lower,
I'm like, what the fuck, you know, that wasn't supposed to happen. I closed on the property with hard money, and I was intending to just do the BRRRR strategy and just refinance it. And I couldn't get a tenant for the commercial space because there was no demand. No one really wanted it. So then
what kind of tenant were you looking for?
Like a gift shop store, flower store, maybe like a fucking cafe, like, you know, like an art gallery, like some bullshit, honestly, space. And it just was on a busy road, and the parking lot I bought was across the street. It just was kind of a shit show. It was an old building, had all these problems with it. And there was no real interest in this commercial space. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, if I can't get this commercial space leased out, this deal's going to suck, because it's basically a glorified 3-family. If there's no commercial tenant, and to convert it would have been a fucking pain. So I already sat down with the town. I was like, this is a mess. So I'm like, all right, if I can't convert this thing, or if I can't get a tenant here, this is a shot deal. Like I'm basically paying like $100,000 a door after because I rehabbed it. So I put like 50 grand in this thing. So I'm basically in the thing for like 300 something thousand, you know, and it just didn't make a lot of sense. So then I'm like, all right, shit, let me just try to sell it. So I called up my broker, and I said, hey, so one broker, I tried to find a specialist to lease the commercial space, and he didn't have any success. So I didn't want to give him the listing because he couldn't sell the fucking rental. So I'm like, I'm not giving you the listing. Like, no. So I called my main guy who does all my like residential stuff. And I said, hey, like, what do you think we could sell this for? And he's like, give me a number. And I said, all right, sounds good. Why don't we try to sell it at a premium? It's vacant. Like, I'm a big shot. Obviously that's a joke, but I said, let's just try to sell it at a premium. And then I'm thinking in my head, like, well, if it's vacant, then the landlords can select their own tenants, like logical, like who wants to inherit tenants? Like I buy properties with tenants all the time and I don't like inheriting tenants because you don't know who you're dealing with. So I'm like, let me sell a blank slate and they can fill it up. And absolutely no offers, nothing, just fucking crickets. And I'm like, fuck, like this is a problem.
You're stuck with the properties just costing you taxes.
Yeah, and there's just capital, and there's always shit breaking, and the rehab. There's always something going on, Like I'm surprised we didn't get a stop work order, honestly, because it was just like in a weird spot where a lot of cars drive by, but it was kind of the middle of nowhere. But anyway, I'm like talking to the broker. I'm like, Edwin, I'm like, we got to figure this out. Like, I don't know what to fucking do here. Like, I can pay off this loan and own it in cash, but like, that's not fun. I don't want to do that. Like, thing's just a money pit. So he's like, why don't we fill it up with tenants and, at least you'll make some cash flow. And then once it's filled up with tenants, we'll put it back on the market at a lower price and we'll sell it and just get you out of this property. I'm like, all right, cool. Fill it up with tenants and all these tenants.
What do you mean tenants? Like business owner?
Like, no.
People are living there.
Yeah, it was a mixed use. There was apartments and then one store. The store, there was no market demand for, and then the apartments filled up fast. Okay. So the tenants were problems. Like the building there was all these issues. The tenants got sick and then I thought they were going to sue me. And then there was like heroin needles on the wall. And it was like cat shit in the attic. I swear, dude, this is fucking a mess. What? Yeah, there was cat shit in the attic and all the tenants were getting sick. And then I got a mold test done because I'm in California. So I don't even know what's going on. Like, I'm just like, I had no plan to do this. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to manage this by myself for now because I'm selling this anyway. So it's like, I'm not going to hire a manager to have him fucking run it for 3 months. Right. So I'm like, I'll just manage it. How hard could it be? Yeah, turns out it's hard. And yeah, he, the tenant got sick and he kept saying like, what the fuck? And I'm like, dude, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I got a mold test done. There's no mold. Like, I paid $1,000 for this thing. Like, you are fucking safe to live there. And they kept getting sick. And I'm like, what is going on? Something's wrong with this property. And turns out the old tenant who used to live there like 3 years ago left a bag of cat shit in the attic and it got everybody sick and it contaminated the building, smelled horrible. I had to get a fucking, like a crime scene cleanup guy to basically clean it up because it smelled so bad, like an excavating, like, I don't know the word. I don't know the guy. He was expensive, but I had to basically hire like a expert cleaner guy to like clean the smell out. And that was expensive. And then the septic backed up and there was a dry pipe and the whole thing smelled like shit. And the tenants were calling me on Christmas. Dude, it was a fucking disaster.
Did you have to bring in an exorcist?
No, I thought I honestly should have. I should have just put it down.
So at this point, you're probably thinking, can I just burn the place down and get insurance money?
As long as the tenants were, no, I'm just kidding. I would never do that. They call that something lightning. I wouldn't say that.
So
what is your biggest, like, okay, I mean, this is a huge
mess. I didn't finish the story yet. I didn't finish the story.
There's more, right?
Oh yeah.
Have to sell it.
So I sold it to a guy all cash, 400,000. And at the end of the day, I listed it for 350. And I sold it for $2,000 on grass.
Remind me, you bought it for 250.
265.
265. How much money did you put into it?
55 in hard cost. That does not account for a fucking penny of any of the other bullshit that happened. So the initial rehab was 55, which was stupid. I hired an idiot contractor, which was my fault. And it ended up, I ended up losing 10 grand after the taxes and the broker fee and the closing costs and all these capital expenditures and giving the tenants their money back and all the rigmarole. I lost 10,000, which, listen, that sucks, but it could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse.
Considering the nightmare that you just described, I feel like it's almost like you just paid 10 grand in tuition.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
you
probably walked away and said, thank you.
I was so happy, dude. And I got a lot of cash back because I had like 100 and I probably had 160 of my own personal money just into this stupid house that wasn't making, or building that wasn't making shit. So I got like an influx of money back, right? Which is great. I had more money to then buy more properties. And I didn't have that liability of the thing was a legit liability. Like it was an actual, like, it was like an alligator. Every time I thought it was taken care of, it would just bite me in the wallet again. And I'm still getting charges to this day. I think we just cleared it up in the LLC I opened up. There was all these bullshit fucking charges coming out of the account. And I'm like, what's going on? It was like the utility bill and like, so I just finally settled with that shit. I think I'm going to close the bank account on Thursday. I'm going to go down to Chase and get that shit closed out. But
so yeah, consider yourself lucky. So I want to learn what was the biggest lesson learned from that experience, and then I want
Yeah.
to talk about what you guys are currently doing because I know we're winding down on this interview.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
want to know, you
Yeah, what's the biggest lesson?
The biggest lesson.
What was the mistake that you like that really
Popped out at you? Yeah,
can-
what could have been avoided? What was yeah.
There's a few. I can't just say one because it was such a shit. The
Right.
overall point, and I'll get into the sub points, is like, don't do deals you don't understand.
Sure.
Period. But I'll get into the sub points because that's just a general statement. Number one, I did not have any clue on the actual repairs that needed to be made to get this property functional. I didn't do a septic inspection. Oh, I didn't even mention that the septic tank was literally being controlled by the DEC because there's no leach field. So that the sewer base, not sewer, the shit essentially gets processed in this tank and dumped out into a body of river, which is a health hazard. So there's a permit from the DEC that I had to grandfather in order to operate the building. And if something would have broke with that septic, I would have gotten absolutely blasted. Would have been a whole health case. So like, number one, I didn't get a septic test. I was so gung-ho on just doing a commercial deal. I didn't get like clear and logical on like why this deal made sense. It got.
You didn't have a contractor go in and like, hey, this.
No. I mean, I had a few estimates, but like, I didn't really like. I just kind of did it wrong, man. I just didn't give a shit. I just wanted to buy a fucking commercial property. I was just gunning to close, dude. I was like going to all these lenders and getting shot down, and like no one wanted to fund this thing. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and then eventually I found a lender who's willing to do it. And he's like, you got to put all this money down. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, consider it done. Pay all these points. Yeah, sure. So I just got involved in a deal I didn't understand. The demand for commercial tenants wasn't there. And I didn't really You didn't
do the research to see if that was.
No, I thought I knew what I knew, but I didn't do the market validation, the viability of the demand there. And I'm like, there's probably a reason it was vacant for 4 years. Like the guy's not a moron, right? And I just didn't have a good understanding on like what to expect when you take on a building built in 1900 that's vacant in semi middle of nowhere. Like I was so focused on doing a commercial deal to check it off the list. I actually did a bad deal. That's like, honestly, the point. And the problem is like the appraisal was like, dude, it got appraised for a shitload of money and I was bought it for 265. My attorney was like, dude, you're stealing this thing. Like you're like, this is a home run. And I'm like all pumped up. This is like when we closed to buy. So I'm thinking like, oh my God, I got all this equity. I'm the king of deals. And it was just, the appraisal meant nothing. It was like, you could pretty much wipe your ass with it because it didn't mean shit because there was no rent coming in.
Right. Do your due diligence, kids.
Oh my God. It was stupid. I mean, I don't buy old properties. I don't buy them like to do the rentals like that. It's just not worth it. I mean, it's got to be at such a cheap price. Like or else I'm not going to buy it. It's just not. There's too much work. There's too much like rental properties. Really, they don't really like the cash flow is kind of bullshit. I hope I didn't like hurt anyone's feelings, but like, man, you're making $200 a month. Like that's not going to do shit, right? It's just it's a long-term play. You're making cash flow to operate the property to then have it paid off, but like you got to have a lot of properties in order to do a lot of rental.
Or I'm meeting people who are there. They're operating in a business mindset. I'll just say this, and then I really want to learn about what you guys are doing. But the cash flow, you didn't hurt anyone's feelings, at least certainly not mine. But people are operating this as a business. They're finding undervalued deals. They're using a mixture of hard money, private money to acquire these cash flow deals. They basically burr them, but they're treating the burr as a business. And if you can do it that way, from what
that works. Yeah, that works.
But
I'm talking about like a bullshit. Yeah, no, I'm talking about like that's the legit business. That's what I'm starting to do now.
Yeah.
But I'm talking like if you are thinking you're gonna get like $200 a month cash flow is not gonna. You're one hot water heater breaking away from not having cash flow. So
even if you're in a market like New York, I have people in my network. They're investing substantial amounts of money into properties in New York that are providing rental income. I don't know if they're cash flow positive, whatever. But the problem is you have to invest a lot of fucking money. That's the problem. You have to invest a lot of money of your own money sometimes to make it worth your while. I don't know. It just doesn't seem appealing to me. But anyway, it's a perfect segue into what are you doing right now? You've built a team. What is your plan for world domination?
Yeah, what does your team do, by the way?
So I have someone on my team who is basically in real estate. I learned this from Michael Pinter. It's like you have the marketing and then you have sales, right? And the sales could be acquisitions or it could be dispositions, right? And that could be flipping, renting, leasing, it doesn't matter. But it's just marketing drives in leads, sales converts the leads or converts the buyers, depending on, or the tenants, depending on what you're doing. So I have someone who handles the phone calls where when leads come in, they get screened, they get, processed, the lead gets scored. And then after that, the lead gets passed on to Brett on my team who negotiates with sellers and gets deals.
Everyone on your team is onshore?
Yeah. Everyone's in the US.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because then I know a lot of people offshoring, but honestly,
you can do that. Yeah.
I feel it's you get what you pay for sometimes. It's a sacrifice, in my opinion.
So,
but anyway.
So so the leads get screened by a lead manager. The lead manager also does text messaging. She sends out messages to sellers and, does miscellaneous admin stuff and, just like doesn't negotiate. She basically does everything except for negotiate with sellers. And then Brett pretty much does everything except for the disposition. So I still sit in the seat where I'm selling properties. I am raising the money. I am managing both of them and making sure that everyone's doing what they need to do. I'm helping them with deals that are tough. Like if there's a seller on the fence and like they need some coaching, I'm obviously helping them out. But yeah, I mean, I'm not as involved in the regular day-to-day of like generating leads and making offers. Like I'm doing some of it, but I'm not doing most of it. And I'm able to look at the business from more of a high level and see like the leads and how much we're spending in marketing and what we're bringing in revenue, what we're bringing in contracts. So like, since I started doing that with help in a team, I just started hiring a team like a year ago. We went from doing like 1 to 3 properties a month. And then like in January we had 9, February we had 4.
Awesome.
This month, I'm assuming we'll get anywhere between 7 and 9, just from the momentum from the previous months, because, when you're a solo man band, you can make a lot of money. You could, but it's a lot of work. And even when you're a manager, it's a lot of work, but you're just doing different work. You're managing people and you're being a leader. Which is a skill set you need to know. But you're going to tap out at probably 3 to 4 houses a month if you're a solopreneur, and you're just going to be super swamped. Like especially if you're not virtual. If you're virtual, you can get away with it pretty well. But if you're like local and you're running around the houses, you're just going to be constantly fucking chasing your tail.
And in terms of funding the operations, was this all your own money that you saved up, or do you?
Yeah, everything. The company pays for like. The real estate business funds itself, knock on wood.
Okay, that makes sense.
From the operation, the wholesale business is a self-functioning business. Okay. Knock on wood.
But it took time to build it.
It took years. Yeah, it took a long time. Yeah. But the money like to raise to buy the properties, like I have my money I use. I have private lenders. I use hard money. I've used pretty much anything you could think of except for like a line of credit.
Sure.
To fund deals, right? And I personally like paying cash for properties. Like I have no problem with that. Some people think that's stupid. I'm like, why is that stupid? Like I'm buying a rental property for 46 G's in cash. No one really wants to do a bank loan at like sub 50,000. It's just not worth the banker's time.
Right.
Sure.
The property is worth like 70, 75 as is, probably 80 if it's renoed. So I'm buying it at like 70 cents on the dollar, and it's going to make probably $300 to $400 a month net after there's a full market tenant in there. And it's like, I could have that money in the bank making 0, or I could have this money in a property that jumps my net worth up by $30,000. It makes me $300 a month or $400 a month. It's like, to me, it's like, that's the best thing you can invest in. And you have depreciation. So it's like, what the hell? So I like those deals. But yeah, we use a lot. I use my own money to like, get into a hard money loan. So like the lender needs 40 grand. So I'll use like some of my savings to like get the gap funded, get the property, pay the interest. And then when we sell the property, the profit comes in, and then I take whatever money I use to fund that deal and I put it back in the account. And then the difference is the profit. So, between that hard money and private, I'll have private lenders fund deals. But I always like to put even with private lenders, I still like to put a little bit of my money in that deal, just so they know that I'm committed to that property. And I only really bring private lenders deals that are like straightforward, like condos or stuff that's just like, like not like a crazy property on a septic. Like I wouldn't have had a private lender fund that deal I lost money on. I had a hard money lender do it. And,
no, that's awesome. So Greg Helbeck in 10 years from now, What's he doing?
Man, definitely I want to have a big net worth, right? Like I think net worth is the name of the game. So I want to have, at least an 8-figure net worth. My whole self-image is not tied to how much money I make. It used to be like that, and I've grown past that. It used to be like a stupid arbitrary thing. Definitely 8-figure net worth. Have a business that really have an income, right? So have an income that's multiple 7 figures, like net, not gross, like net. And then have a team, right? Have a team that is that's making a lot of money too, like helping other people be really successful. So I don't want to be the guy making all the money, or I want to have people on my team, guys and girls, be able to fulfill their dreams and their goals within my organization as an entrepreneur. Sure. And I want to be able to be like the best leader I can be, from a business perspective.
And are you still in the same lines of business 10 years from now, or are you? I know it's hard to extrapolate.
I'm probably still doing deals. It may be still wholesaling. Dude, 10 years is so fucking long. Like I have no idea, but I would say definitely more of the commercial real estate and probably more lending kind of stuff.
Sure.
I probably would still do deal. It's hard for me to say 10 years, but definitely in higher leverage opportunities, whether it's owning the flipping business or wholesaling business, where I'm basically just looking at the high level numbers, or I'm doing more larger commercial deals that are obviously hopefully profitable, unlike the one I did last year and sold like 3 months ago. So 10 years is a long time. Hard for me to say that, but definitely it's growing the net worth, growing the net income every year.
I like that you're setting your goals. You set them high and shoot for them, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah, just being a leader, man, being a good leader, and then learn how to communicate better, and just honestly getting better every day, man. It's like I used to be all crazy with like, I still am pretty goal oriented for the most part, but like, dude, if you just get up and like have 3 wins for the day and like make progress and like have like a weekly schedule, like you're gonna do more shit in 2 years than you could ever imagine. And you look back and you're like, holy shit, like that was pretty cool. Like Absolutely. 2 years ago, I was like, worried about this.
I think that we got to make one last question.
Sure.
Is goal setting the key to your success? What is the key to your success?
Consistency is the key for sure. Like
I've heard that so many times. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I've consistently heard that consistency.
It's all it is. It's like, it's just consistency, but goals help because goals help you get towards where you want to go. But goals are totally arbitrary, dude. I had a goal like when I was 22, maybe. Time flies now, but I was 23 maybe. I wanted to move to Southern Cal and like make a certain amount of money. And I did both of those things. And I got to Southern Cal and I was fucking miserable. I'm like, oh my God, I did it. I just achieved it. Like, what the hell? Now I'm out here by myself. So the point of that is like, you're always gonna, it's just a moving goalpost. Like you're gonna hit a goal and it's gonna feel great and you should feel super proud about it. But you're just going to have another goal and you have to just be willing to accept that. And you got to make sure your goals are like, meaningful, right? Like when you hit the goal, it's going to be cool for a little bit. And then you're going to want to set another goal. And I think goals just reveal to you potential and they build your self-confidence, because when you like say you're going to do something and you do the work to do it and you achieve it, your subconscious starts to believe that you're actually legit. And then you can just start leveling up your life by leveling up your goals. But really consistency is the name of the game. And if someone's consistent, I mean, they can do anything. I mean, if they're consistently learning, consistently growing, consistently improving, consistently, getting the right information to execute, like they're unstoppable, like consistently persisting. I mean, literally you can do anything.
And you have exhibited the drive, you've overcome hurdles. So, I can see the consistency. But I don't have any more questions other than, where can people learn more about you? But unless David has any more questions.
I just want to say I'm proud of people that are successful. So I'm proud of you, even though I just met you. And I hope that your success grows. And I'm excited to talk to you again in the future and see where you're at, see what else you've learned.
I'd love to be back on. Anytime you guys want to do this, I love doing podcast interviews. They're fun.
We definitely appreciate
I've learned a lot. It's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been
Thanks
awesome.
for being on.
Yeah, and we look forward to following your journey. But where can people learn more about you, and how do they reach out to you if they want to?
Yeah, they can email me, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. I'll see that and respond.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, VELOCITY house, HOUSE buyers, B as in boy, UYERS.com. Greg.
We'll add the links to the bio.
Yeah.
And are you on social media? Are you active?
Yeah. Yeah. So Greg, GREGO. So Grego _ 37. Grego _ 37.
Awesome. And we'll add the links to that. So,
Cool.
well, Greg, it's been a pleasure. I've learned so much. David, I'm sure, as he said, he's learned a ton. It was definitely a pleasure. We look forward to following your journey. I think I can safely speak for David that, there's going to be awesome things in your future. And
Absolutely.
and thank you so much for being our first official guest on the Real Estate Coasters podcast.